Hi there, this is Bourbon Turntable. We are the show that blends the love of whiskey with the love of music. My name is Kevin Rose, and with me tonight is Benjamin Eves. How you doing, brother?
Hey, doing good, Kevin. How are you?
Doing really well, Have you had a good Sunday? We record our shows on Sunday, if anybody didn't know, or if you even cared. But have you had a good Sunday, Ben?
It's been pretty good. Yeah,
Good.
kind of nice and slow overall.
Yeah, so not having to work,
there.
not having to work at the distillery on Sunday.
Not this Sunday.
Good.
Never know when that might happen, though.
Good. Drew Crawley, what's happening, brother?
Howdy. I'm doing good, man.
Yep.
Just recovering once again from a weekend full of poor decision making, and just enjoying the day.
Yeah.
It was snowing yesterday morning, and today has been 63 and sunny.
Yes.
So my brain and my body's a little all over the place, just like our weather here. But you make what you make of it.
And I believe you went bowling.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I really did was drink too much and lose a lot of money betting on the games of bowling that we were playing. But that's a typical weekend for my crew.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we had a nice time celebrating some birthdays last night. Yep. And then, we always end up somewhere where there's live music. So we had a good time.
Now, Pete Townsend attributes his guitar playing style to bowling. So the entire night may not have been a loss. Okay. So, maybe
picking something up. Yeah.
Picked up a little guitar technique from Pete Townsend there. So, hey, we have a couple of other special guests with us tonight. And Kevin Niehoff is with us. Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Hey, guys. Doing good.
Good.
Happy to be here.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. Got to see you play on Thursday night. And, yeah, fantastic show, man.
Thank you.
As good a guitar player as there is around. Love it. So, but we'll get into a little bit more of that later. And Ryan Necci, how you doing, Ryan?
I'm good. It's actually Necci.
Necci. Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's all good. I get everything. So I'll answer to literally anything.
How about Ryan? You answer to Ryan?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Here we go. First of all, I commented on this when you joined the stream. I love the room you're in.
Oh, thanks, man.
That's fantastic. So is that just for show, or is it really what you use to write songs in?
Yeah, this is my home office. My wife and I, she's a graphic designer, and when COVID hit, we pretty quickly realized that as two artists, we needed two separate spaces to work. So we have like a little barn on our property. So I built this out in our barn, and it's nice. I get to sometimes I'll actually pack a lunch, and I will come out here and I won't see her for, 8 or 9 hours, that kind of thing. It's nice to be able to sort of, it's nice to treat it like a blue collar kind of thing.
Sure.
And show up for work every day.
Right. That's your work. That's your office. That's your office. That's your.
But yeah, I wanted it to be a spot that was not a drag to hang out in and to spend a lot of time in. So
yeah, it looks great.
This is where it landed. Thanks.
I'm guessing there's probably like a refrigerator there too, and maybe a little
right outside
cabinet.
The door.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yep.
Good. All right. Hey, here at Bourbon Turntable, we are a part of the Bar Cart Co-op. And that includes other shows such as Distillers Talk with Alan Bishop and Christy Atkinson, and My Whiskey Den featuring Pat, Mike, and our own Benjamin Eves. So tune into those shows. My Whiskey Den shows 9 o'clock on Monday nights. Distillers Talk, those shows drop on your favorite podcast platform on Thursday mornings. So check those guys out as well. And we have one more brief announcement.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Don't forget to comment if you're watching live in the chat. Leave a comment down below afterwards. Always remember that thumbs up.
Thank you, Wonder Mike. We always appreciate that talent you bring to our show to encourage people to like, share, subscribe. Don't forget that thumbs up. All right, Drew Crawley, I'm going to turn it over to you to take us through the whiskey part of our show.
Okay, so guys, you all have a sample from me, and I'm amazed that Ryan's got there because the USPS did not want to ship it. I told them it was meat marinade, and
it could be.
So as far as the United States government goes, you have meat marinade there. So if you don't have it already, pour it in your glass. I would love to get a little bit of thoughts from you guys before I share with you what it is. A little, what do you smell? What do you taste? You like it? All that jazz.
You put it in the most ominous looking container possible. Like a little medical sampler bottle.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
At least it wasn't a urine sample cup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope you washed it.
I have had samples sent to me in sketchier things than that, but
hey,
I'm gonna let you guys run with this, because with my allergies right now, I'm not tasting or smelling much of anything at the moment.
Oh,
I can
man.
tell you if it's sweet, and that's about it. But
okay. What do you take on the nose, guys?
It smells like meat marinade.
little A1.
Yeah. What do I?
then you're using the right kind of meat marinade.
Yeah.
That's what it smells like.
Like a little cinnamon, I think, maybe.
Yeah. Pick that up for sure.
There's a little bit of citrus, maybe, like a little bit of orange peel,
Yep.
maybe.
Yep. I get a lot of dark chocolate on the back end of this one. I don't know if you guys grew up in households that did this, but every year at Christmas, my dad would make us those, or would put in the stocking the chocolate oranges.
Yep.
That's kind of that note. And then this might be a little bit wonky, but cinnamon toast crunch cereal comes out real strong for me.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially on the nose.
Yep.
I thought you were going to say he put those little chocolate bottles with liquor in them, the cordials or whatever they're called.
So you don't know this, Ryan, but the rest of these guys will get a kick out of it. My dad is a Baptist preacher, and I think he might die of a heart attack. He saw me drinking whiskey. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Any other thoughts, guys, before I kind of talk you through this one?
No.
I don't want to spend too terrible much time on it.
So we can taste it now?
Yeah, taste it.
Oh, I already went down that road. Sorry.
Any thoughts on age or proof from the peanut gallery?
I'm no expert, but I would guess it's not a super high proof.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I would agree. Maybe in the 90 range.
Yeah, you're pretty spot on there.
No, I like that. I like it. It's kind of has that sweetness to it, but a little bit of that cinnamon spice still kicks around.
Very good. Well, I mentioned this on the previous show, but this is one of my new favorite whiskeys that I've come across, both for the price point and the nose. First time I got handed a glass of this, I just fell in love. So what you're drinking is the new release from Green River Distilling Company. This is the Green River Bourbon. So these folks come to us out of Owensboro, Kentucky. Previously, they were doing a brand called O.Z. Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
Which was, I don't know of a nice way to say it, tasted like ass, but that is kind of my take on O.Z. Tyler. And,
that's the nicest way you can put it.
It was awful. So they had some experimental aging techniques that everyone was kind of thinking at one point might be a way to rapid age whiskey, and it just sucked. And what they did is they went back to the drawing board. Got some new folks in on their team and went back to kind of the classic way of doing things. One of the cool pieces of history with Green River is they actually have DSP number 10. So for those that may not be familiar with the history of that, anything that's in the double digits as far as DSP numbers is an original distilled spirits permit issued by the United States government. most of which were done pre-prohibition. So for them to have 10 still is a big deal. So this one is non-age stated, but the distillery press release says it's a little over 5 years old. This is the youngest whiskey in there. It's 70% corn, 21% rye, and then 9% of malt barley. So a little bit different in terms of rye content. They're doing some cool stuff with their winter rye. They're getting everything exclusively from Belgium as far as their rye and barley go, which is kind of different. And then it is 90 proof. This bottle retails for $28.99, and it's pretty hard to beat at that price point. It's, I think, maybe going to become kind of a go-to for me. So I really enjoyed it. Was surprised at how much I enjoyed it, considering how much I hated OZ Tyler. Thought you guys might like it as well.
Yeah. And here's where it's important to keep an open mind on whiskey. I got a bottle of this for my birthday, and I thought, this is going to suck. And because of the history of the distillery,
Right.
and the whiskey tasting like ass. But I opened the bottle. I really put it off for a little while because I'm thinking, they're going to ask, what did you think of it? And I'm going to have to lie. But I finally opened it and tried it, and it was great. Well, great, maybe an overstatement, but compared to what I thought it would be, yeah, it's solid. It's solid.
I'm kind of with you, Drew. I think too. I've gotten to have this one out before, so I am familiar with it, and I think it's absolutely solid. I think for the money, man, this one is going to be hard to touch by a lot of other bourbons that are in that price range, in that category. It's outstanding for what it is.
Yeah, only thing I can think of that's even comparable is the Old Foe Signature. That 100 proof that's in that price range and age range and all that kind of stuff.
I think Rebel 100 is good.
Yes,
yeah, it's in
I
that kind of range. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Drew.
No, I was just say, Kevin and Ryan, you guys have any other thoughts on this one?
I'm not a bourbon guy, but this isn't like I would probably gravitate towards this if I were to go that route.
Absolutely.
I like that it's nice and easy right off the bat. You know what I mean? Like it's mostly sweet right off the bat, whereas some of them hit you real hard. Yeah, I like it, man.
Very good.
I'm usually a rye guy, but yeah, I really dig it.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you for indulging that, and shout out to our good friend and part of the Bar Cart Co-op, Tim Van Riper. For introducing this to me and forcing me to give Green River a second try. We love.
Guess who I was going to say? Guess who I sampled it with previously?
Tim. Yeah. Very good.
All right. Well, thanks for that, Drew. Thanks for sharing that. That's really good.
Yeah.
So, we're gonna. Well, I tell you what, before we do this, Ryan, you said you're kind of a rye guy. Is there something that you gravitate to?
Oh man!
Other than Buzzard Drew, which we'll talk about.
For a long time, my wife and I. She loves them too. We were making, Manhattans. We'll get like the Bullet Rye. We're big Templeton fans. Trying to think what else we have in there right now. That's usually. Bullet's usually the go-to for us. It's. Maybe I'm saying something that you guys have said tastes like ass before.
No.
Right
Not at all.
That's kind of our go-to, like relatively inexpensive, but decent tasting. So.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's good. Now, Kevin, I know that you say you're not a bourbon guy, but I know that you've drank bourbon because I've seen you. Okay. So is there anything? Is there other than just now? Is there anything that you do gravitate to, even if it's not bourbon? Is there something else that you like to drink?
I'm pretty simple. Usually we just go for like a light beer, but I like IPAs too. It's kind of if that's like if I'm getting like a special drink, I would just get some sort of IPA.
Yep. Except when Drew's buying you drinks when you're singing somewhere, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it's my goal in life to take shots with Kevin before every set. I enjoy that tremendously.
We'll convert him. We'll convert him to being a bourbon guy before long.
I'm getting there.
Yeah. Good. Give in to the dark side.
Yeah.
Kevin, do you find
no? That'd be coming on over to Scotch and the peated stuff. Welcome to my dark side.
Kevin,
what were we saying there, Ryan?
Yeah, Kevin, do you find if you're drinking before a set, do you have any issues singing? Has it ever affected you at all?
Not really, but when I have pretty bad allergies. So like if that's going on, like I know I probably shouldn't, because it'll just dry out my voice. But I mean, for the most part, no. I mean, yeah.
Right on.
What about you?
I used to drink a lot more when I was younger, and I think that was probably most of my issue. Like, it was creating a lot of acid issues and things like that. Yeah. And since I've grown up a little bit and started being a little more careful, I still find that I probably shouldn't drink before I sing, but afterwards it's always good to wind down. But I was just interested if it affects other people the same way or not. Yeah.
Doesn't bother me when I sing. So
right on.
That's all it matters. All right. We're going to wrap up side A of the show talking about whiskey. We're going to talk about music here in just a moment. But first of all, we want to tell you about this special event at Beck's Mill. This is our friend Alan Bishop up at Spirits of French Lick. He is doing a presentation on the history of distilling in Indiana's Black Forest. This is on April 23rd, a Saturday afternoon. 4 o'clock, there'll be a tasting of some stuff from Spirits of French Lick. That's worth the price of admission alone. And then you get to hear from Alan about this history of distilling. And if there's anybody that knows history of distilling, it is Alan Bishop. So check your calendars, check becksmill.org and see if you can make it out there. I know you'll enjoy it. You'll enjoy the tasting, and I know you'll enjoy the presentation. It will be educational and very entertaining. There is one thing that Alan Bishop is not, and that is boring. So you will enjoy that. So let's flip it over to side B of the show, and let's talk about some music. And the thing I want to kind of start things off with, and Ryan, if you don't mind, we'll start with you.
Sure.
And I'll ask Ryan this and Kevin this, and I'll ask Drew. Drew, we've talked about this with Drew before, but I want to kind of get it as a baseline here. Ryan, how did you get into music? What drove you and attracted you into music?
I come from not a super musical family, but they're deep music fans, and specifically singer-songwriters. There was a lot of John Prine, a lot of Townes Van Zandt and Emmylou Harris, and all that kind of stuff, and Hank Sr. And my dad was is a gigantic Dylan fan. So when you're a little kid, you have no interest in that stuff. But eventually it starts to kind of seep in, just because it's on constantly, and he's really good at wearing out a record. So I would say that that's where the itch came from. And my mom is also, she was a fiction writer for a long time. And so she got me into writing stories and just loving the English language. And so between those two, I think that's kind of what spurred it, but I was actually kind of thinking about it today, what got me playing instruments. And it was really just boredom with friends, which I think is probably a pretty common thing. We just a handful of kind of nerdy kids that didn't know what else to do, and thought that this was the coolest possible thing we could do, was get cheap instruments and play a song together, Yeah. So that's really, that's kind of how I started.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Kevin, how about you? Same question.
Yeah. My dad's side of the family are like pretty much everyone in there is somewhat musically talented. Like his dad plays trombone in a jazz band, and he has for like I think 30 plus years around Louisville. And my dad's a self-taught guitarist, and he like piano player, and like a few of his brothers are the same. So like that, the music kind of runs through that side of the family, and that's kind of where I think my like aptitude to it comes from. But then, I mean, I'm similar to what Ryan said about like just what you grow up listening to. Like my dad was a huge Beatles fan, so like I grew up listening to any and all Beatles records. Like it's the same thing with that. Like I wasn't interested in it growing up, but then it just kind of hit me as I got older. Like I'm a huge fan now, but it's just like, yeah. But
yeah. Okay. Follow up question. What jazz band?
I'm not sure the name.
Okay. All right. Cause we saw a jazz band the other night, and they were great. So I just wanted to do the same thing. So anyway, Drew.
Yeah, very similar to these guys. Very musical family. My mom was a music major in college. My dad is not particularly musical, but both my grandfather and my great-grandfather on his side are blues guitarists. I've been fortunate enough to inherit some guitars from them and things like that. So that's been pretty cool. Grew up playing music in the church, played piano. Mom made us all play piano since we were like 4 years old. And then at some point I decided I was going to try to get a girlfriend, so I needed to learn how to play guitar, and fell in love with John Mayer records and Stevie Ray Vaughan records, and then John Prine. And I want to bring this back up a little bit later. I know, Kevin, you and I both share a deep, deep love for John Mayer's guitar playing. Ryan, sounds like we are on the same page with John Prine as well, so maybe we can talk about that later.
Sure.
But yeah, those are some of the driving forces for me. I was kind of forced into it and then fell in love with it later on.
Well, we'll talk about those influences, because there's some commonality there. What impact? I guess both two questions really in one. The influence from parents or other relatives and the music that they played that you may not have necessarily been into at the time. And then some of the influences you guys talked about, whether it's John Prine or John Mayer or John Lennon or John Bon Jovi or some other John. I don't know.
Well, I think for me, family music growing up, I've mentioned this earlier. I grew up in a very, very conservative religious home. We were not allowed to listen to anything that was not explicitly Christian. But did listen to some Vince Gill and Amy Grant stuff, because that was still in the wheelhouse. Stephen Curtis Chapman was another big one. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that name. I actually saw him last weekend when I was in Oklahoma with my parents.
Awesome.
He was playing just an evening with acoustic show that was awesome. And then, kind of had an appreciation for him. And then really it was falling in love with the art of storytelling through song that got me into John Prine. I just don't know that there's any artist that does that better than he does, and just creating visuals, his little double entendres and illusions and all that kind of stuff. Specifically, in early high school, learning how to write for real, and just saying, oh my gosh, this guy's such a poet. Finding out about his relationship with Ralph Waldo Emerson and all that other stuff. I just fell in love with his craft. And then I saw from a friend the Where the Light Is concert that John Mayer did, and was just blown away by the guitar playing and the variation of guitar playing. If you guys aren't familiar with it, I mean, I know most of us are, but he does an acoustic set, and then he brings out the trio, and then he does a full band pop set. And it's just so much dynamic playing. Songwriting is great, but really through John Mayer, kind of fell in love with playing the guitar for real, more than just, your 4 chords you need to play in church on Sunday morning. So, anyway,
or play my songs.
That's all of our songs. Maybe not Kevin. Yeah. Anyway, that was it for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
I would say the one thing that really sticks out for me is that kind of, the Beatles thing really resonated because I remember my dad came home with like that when they put out all the albums on CD in like one box set for the first time. He came home with that, and I was like, why would you spend that much money on I don't want to listen to the Beatles or whatever. And then eventually, of course, I fell in love with the Beatles and consumed like absolutely everything I possibly could by them. But the thing that really sticks out is my dad loves Dylan and Paul Simon. Those are like two of his, he'd put them on Mount Rushmore kind of thing.
Right. And
he bought us third row center tickets when they were on tour doing that, the double headliner thing. I feel like it was probably, it's got to be 25 years ago now, which is absolutely crazy to say out loud. But I remember seeing Dylan do his thing and play his incredible songs, and there wasn't a ton of showmanship to it. It was just his songs standing up. And then Paul Simon came out with like a 15-piece band playing all the Graceland songs, 3 drummers. And I was like, both of these things are absolutely destroying my brain right now. A guy with an acoustic guitar and a guy with a 15-piece band, and they're both writing these incredible songs. That was just a big night for me as a kid, seeing that you could do all sorts of things like that and you could still boil it down to a good song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's tough to have greater songwriting influences than those two.
You just they're your North Star, and you just point yourself at it, and you're always trying to get at it, but you never quite reach it. You know what I mean? And I feel like the sooner you get comfortable with that, the better you start writing. But I don't know. I've never really shied away from like aiming at somebody and having something that you're constantly reaching for, And those guys, yeah, you're always going to be reaching for those guys.
Definitely. Kevin?
Well, it's funny that you said about what you said about the Where the Light Is album, because I'm the same way. Like I for some reason, I have 2 older sisters, and they were like right in the age of being like John Mayer fans when he first got famous, and so that's another person that I just like grew up listening to just by chance. But I remember in high school I was going on a plane ride, and I downloaded the Where the Light Is album. I was like, I'll just check it out, whatever. And like Neon's the first song on the album. And I heard it and I was like, I want to do that. Like that, like I want to, like I didn't play an instrument, but I was just like, that is like the coolest thing I've ever heard. So like the moment is always going to stick with me, just as when I realized I wanted to play guitar. But
have you learned how to play that one yet? Because I've been trying for 14 years and I still can't fucking do it.
Well, yeah, it was the first time I tried to learn. It's like I sat down like with YouTube and like tried to like figure it out. And obviously, like I didn't know what I was doing, so it didn't. I just wasted time. But like, I know how to play it. Knowing how to play it and like actually playing it to a serviceable level are 2 different things. So I wouldn't feel very comfortable just doing it right now. But
I've heard you play it warming up for a show. Okay, you can play it. now the problem is if you play it and it gets out on social media, then John Mayer won't play it anymore.
Yeah, right. Oh man, we wouldn't want that. I'd rather see him play it. But I mean, outside of that, that's kind of where the guitar started. I learned. I took drum lessons for a little bit growing up, and then piano lessons for a little bit, but it never really stuck with me. It was all just like really classical lessons that I just didn't really resonate with. But then, yeah, I mean, once I like had the desire to play guitar, that's when it all clicked.
Very cool.
And then, I mean, outside of guitar, like songwriting, like obviously John Mayer is my favorite artist. So like when I first started playing, I like wanted to write stuff just like him. But when you get into his music, it's like impossible to like replicate that. And it's like, so like it kind of similar to what Ryan said, like I'm always like trying to get there, but like I kind of realized that I wouldn't get there. So I started to kind of not make stuff as like complicated and like try to like make it simpler so I could kind of digest it more easier. Then there's an artist named Dave Barnes in Nashville that I'm a really, really big fan of. He does like kind of pop, country and like soul. But I randomly heard some of his music on Spotify a few years ago, and I've just been kind of obsessed since. And he's more of an artist that I think I'd probably sound more like him than anyone else.
Very cool. I wanted to ask you guys, just because, Ryan, if this is fair to say, you're quite a bit further ahead in your career with music than we are. What is your relationship with being an independent artist versus being signed, booking your own gigs versus being put on a tour? How do you guys deal with that kind of stuff? What are the benefits to being independent versus being with someone?
I mean, I'm still, I don't want to give the illusion that I'm a ultra professional, successful artist or anything. I'm still very much a DIY kind of thing. I just have a few more people helping. And I feel like the value there is ridiculous. Like, I don't want to diminish that at all. But I wanted to write on Friday, and I ended up spending all day on the phone and on emails, booking shows and working on booking and stuff. So, I do all of the band's graphic design, and social media stuff and a lot of the videos. So like, I'm still wearing a lot of hats. And I'm fine with that. But like I said, I have a handful of people that really, really believe in what we're trying to do and the songs that we're writing or that I'm writing. And just them being able to take some of that weight off my shoulders and give me a little extra time to focus on the art, as opposed to all the shit that all the stuff that you don't really want to do, because you don't get into music to post on Instagram. You don't start writing songs to be on Facebook all day.
Right.
But it's part of it, and it's a necessary part of it, unless you don't really care about growing the business. You know what I mean? Right. If you're just in it to create the art, that's totally fine too and honorable. But I guess I'm kind of rambling. Does that answer it all?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. No, and I've found similar things where it's like, you mean I have to bare my soul and have like a professional level of digital marketing skill? Like,
right.
I don't want to do that. I'm not good at that.
Yep. Or you got to figure out how to pay somebody else to do it.
Right.
Like if you're not willing to do it and you're not willing to learn, that's also fine. That's a route you can take. But I would rather put that money towards more studio time, being able to maybe take a lesser paying gig because it gets us into a new market and I have a little bit of money set aside to do that sort of thing. So I'm trying to pick up as much slack as I can. But the people that are helping, they do a ton of stuff. I mean, they're my publisher, they're my record label, that kind of thing. The biggest thing they're doing is just championing what I'm doing in Nashville. Like it's one thing for me to say, hey, I have an EP coming out. I'm really proud of it. I put a lot of work into it. I think it's really good. But for people that have been doing this for 40 years to say that and put their name and put their stamp on it, there's a ton of value there.
Absolutely.
And it's also, I mean, it means the world just to know that these people who've heard thousands of songs hear something in what I'm doing that's worth passing on to somebody else. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Oh, that's great. Kevin, what about you? What are some of the benefits that you found to being on your own, and what are some of the struggles maybe?
Definitely the social media and like the marketing side of it is where I struggle. But I've learned a lot like in the last year, like or 2 years since I've been really on Instagram and like posting stuff a lot. And you kind of learn the ins and outs of like what apps you should use and like what like software, websites. I think the benefit, I mean, I just do solo stuff. So like, it's really easy to just like do my own thing. I don't have to worry about like other people around me. I guess it's like the one thing, but I mean, it's just like generating like leads with like gigs and like that kind of thing is just tough. But like I really enjoy like getting to meet new people, and I think that's the most valuable thing that I've experienced so far. Just playing around Louisville is just like meeting new artists and different like owners of bars or different stuff, or just like I said, artists, just to get to like, I mean, I wouldn't have met you unless I started playing music. So yeah, it's just, I appreciate that aspect of it just as much.
For sure. Yeah. Louisville is a little bit of a tough market, in that you could either play a dive bar for a couple $100 at 50 people, and you might have a blast, but you're not going to make a lot of money, and you're not going to get any more listens on your Spotify channel. Or you can play Paris Town Hall, and there's not a lot of in between, especially for guys that are trying to do it on their own. You know, you either grind it out and play a lot for not a lot of money, or you need to be with some kind of representation. And that's been a challenge for sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure you found that as well. I wanted to ask you guys about your writing process. Both of you, I've listened to pretty much everything you've put out, and writing is something I think all three of us try to put a lot of emphasis in. And Ben and Kevin, you guys both enjoy songwriters who take things seriously. What would you say is your writing process like? Do you start with a progression? Do you start with a melody? Do you start with lyrics? And then where do you find your inspiration for the songs that you do write? Either or, whoever wants to answer.
I'll go. I would say for me, it usually starts with a melody. I mean, there's been a few songs that I've put out now that started out as just a progression, but for the most part, it's just something will just kind of happen in my head, and then I'll just try and put chords underneath it, and then the lyrics usually come last. But just like from a songwriting perspective, I think it's a lot of like feelings that it like whenever I feel like anything, I'll just try and write about it if it's not something I'm comfortable with, and then that kind of helps me like think through and like kind of move on from it. I think is what I've started to do, at least lately.
Absolutely. Well, I find it fascinating that you, being so influenced by the Beatles, have a very similar songwriting process. I don't know if you guys watched the recent Disney Plus documentary, but they started with melody and then chords and then lyrics a lot. So it's cool that you do that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Ryan, what about you? What's your writing process like, man?
Mine's kind of the opposite. I usually start, my notes app I have a note that just goes on and on and on and on forever. And so I'm constantly writing in that, which probably looks like I'm looking at social media or something, or texting somebody, but I'm really just, I try to not lose anything, because early on in my career, I lost a lot of ideas just by not thinking that it was valuable or whatever. And now I've been doing it long enough that I know even if you have that thought, like, oh, I should write this down, you should absolutely write that down, because even if that's not the thing, it might lead to the thing that is a thing. But yeah, I usually, if I try and write every day, I try and spend at least a couple hours every day writing. And if I'm getting a lot better at knowing if it's not going to happen that day, I don't necessarily prescribe to or subscribe. I don't necessarily believe the divine intervention thing, like somebody's feeding songs to me. But I do think that if you're not putting yourself in a good position to be creative, you're not going to be creative. Like if you're just wandering around waiting for the muse to strike, you might get a song once in a while, but it's a quantity thing also. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
So I'll usually sit down with a line that has been resonating and that I keep seeing and is kind of haunting me a little bit, and I'll start building on that. I really love the puzzle aspect of songwriting. I love trying to fit these things together that maybe don't necessarily initially seem like they work. And then, massaging lines and sanding off the edges or adding edges, that kind of thing. I love that part of it. And the the game almost of trying to get this thing wrangled into something that you're proud of, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's a fucking mess when you start, and most of the time it's a real mess. And then by the time somebody else gets to hear it, you've sang those lines 4,000 times to yourself. You know what I mean? Again, I'm rambling, but that's kind of how I start. It's mostly lyrics, but my songs usually start very simply until I get them to the band, and that's where they start to kind of flesh things out musically.
Absolutely. Well, that actually is a great transition into my next kind of thought. How do you guys deal with collaboration and co-writing? Because I think, without overruling any of your answers here, I get a little bit territorial when I'm writing. I'm like, this is my idea. This is my feelings. This is my soul I'm trying to get out there. And opening it up to somebody else for input can be a challenge, but there's also been times when a song that I've been writing has had the perfect resolution because I took it to someone else. They have the completion of the thought. So how do you guys approach co-writing and collaboration?
I never co-wrote until I moved down here. And then it became like, so I'm from Milwaukee originally, or a small town outside of Milwaukee. There's really no co-writing happening there in the truest sense of I mean, there's people getting together and writing songs together, but it's not like in Nashville, that's all that happens is multiple people getting in a room and writing songs, you know? So I couldn't even comprehend what the business down here, the songwriting business was down here from up there. Just there's no way to get the experience. And then once I started coming down here and I signed a publishing deal, I had no choice but to like get comfortable with you're writing with people 3 or 4 times a week. And you should probably walk out of there with a song, whether you like it or not. And so you get pretty good pretty quick at leaving that ego outside. And I struggle with it. I still struggle with it. I've been doing it for a few years now. And I would say there are definitely lines and ideas that I keep that are precious to me. You know what I mean? And then there are lines and ideas that I'm like, that's good, but like maybe somebody else can help me make this into something great, you know?
Right.
So I'm still doing a lot of solo writing, but I've just kind of learned how to balance a little bit and not be so precious with those ideas and realize that like, there's a reason those other people are down here writing songs too. They're great. And they might be able to add something to my idea that elevates it to a place that I never would have been able to get it to, you know?
Sure. That's great. Appreciate that. Kevin, you and I have written together a little bit. Yeah. How do you approach co-writing?
I mean, being solo in Louisville, I haven't really done it at all. Like that was, I mean, with you has been my like main experience. So I don't have much to add. Other than just, I mean, it's similar to what you said in the beginning, just being kind of territorial of what your ideas are and like not like, I don't know. I feel like I get kind of unsure of like if it's even going to be received well. So I kind of am like hesitant to like show like someone that I don't like, I don't know. But as you build a relationship with other artists, I think what I've been doing the past few months, it'll be a little easier to do it. But it's one of my goals is to like get more active within the community and start to collaborate more.
For sure.
It really does help to find not that I'm an expert, but it really does help to start finding like people that you trust, because there's an incredible amount of trust in co-writing and in successful co-writing. Like you need to be able to bare your soul and sound like an idiot sometimes, and you need to be able to have somebody say that's not a really great line, and you don't, you know, your hair doesn't stand up, that kind of thing. And that takes a lot of practice and a lot of just hearing that stuff. Like I never had somebody tell me that a line was not good until I was in a writing room in Nashville. And it was like, oh, you guys, there are no feelings here anymore. Apparently this is just, this is factory work, you know? And it's not that extreme, but I mean, I don't know, for better or worse, it is like you kind of develop an armor. You have to, or you won't be able to do that anymore. You know, you'd lay in bed in the dark all day thinking you're worthless, which I've done before too.
I think we've all been there. Well, I have a few more questions, but Kevin or Ben, do you guys have any questions for Mr. Niehoff and Ryan?
Jump in, Kevin.
Okay. I do want to give a little bit of a base promotion or background for each of you guys as far as what work you've got out there. And Kevin, I'd like to start with you. This is your album that is, I know it's available on Spotify. It's called Degrees of Separation. It is the best John Mayer album since Continuum.
Oh man.
But tell people a little bit about that, how they can find it, and because it's just been out a couple months now.
Yeah, it came out late February. I just kind of wrote it throughout the last year. This has been the timeline of it. I recorded it in my home little studio. I wouldn't even really call it a studio, but like what I have built up so far. I played all the instruments on it. And like I have a buddy who does production and stuff. So he's been giving me tips on how to produce it, but I did like do the production myself. And that was something I was really proud of. And like, I found like every time I worked on a song, like from a mixing and mastering standpoint, like it improved. Like each song got better as I like went through. So like the quality of production on the album kind of fluctuates, I think. But there is like a start to end of like me figuring out like this is like something I'm like okay with putting out there, saying that I actually like mixed it and mastered everything. But yeah, it's on all streaming services.
It's very impressive to a guy that is not a musician but a pretty big fan of music, that you recorded all of this, all the instruments, all the vocals, all the production of it. You did on your own in your house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of YouTube, a lot of late night YouTube sessions. And but
what software do you use?
Ableton.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of the album, and the only thing that I would say is you need more face melting guitar solos. So just melt my face with the next one.
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. Now, Ryan, you've got it looks, again, just judging from what I see on Spotify, it looks like you've got an EP out, as well as a handful of singles.
Yeah, it's a little confusing because we were originally called Buffalo Gospel. It didn't have my name in it for a few years. And within the last year or so, we changed it to Ryan Necci and the Buffalo Gospel. So if you go to our Bandcamp page, which I'm not sure what it is, buffalogospel.bandcamp or something, that has everything we've ever done. There's a couple full records on there and some EPs and stuff. But the streaming services make it difficult to change your band name. So long story short, when we changed it, we had to take a lot of stuff off that hopefully will go back up at some point. But the stuff that's on there are the things that we've released since the name change.
Okay.
But yeah, Bandcamp, if you're looking to be a completist, Bandcamp is the place to go.
Okay. And where we first heard about you was through our friends over at Buzzard's Roost.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
That was, it's been a relationship that has been like 3 or 4 years in the making, and has really just kind of ramped up this year. I guess this could be a little bit of a long story, and I apologize in advance, but the way that I got to Nashville, I was working at a graphic design firm in Milwaukee, at 9 to 5. And that's kind of what I thought I was going to be doing forever. And, you know, doing the regional touring and artist thing on the weekends and using all my vacation time to go as far as I could. And one day I was fine with that, cause I was having a gas and I was making the music I wanted to make and everything was great. But I got an email one day from a guy named Joe Fisher. And it was just one line. It was, "Hey, Ryan, my name's Joe. I work in Nashville in the music industry. I'd love to help you out. Give me a call." And I was like, this doesn't fucking happen ever. Like nobody just sends a cold call email like this, you know?
Right.
But I called him and he ended up, he's an A&R guy he's been an A&R guy for a long time. And he had a friend who is an entertainment attorney in town here named Scott Safford. And Scott had an assistant that somehow found our record online and handed it to Scott and was like, "You should hear this." And so Scott and Joe ultimately got me down here, helped me get the publishing deal, helped me get set up in Nashville. They've been sort of non-traditional managers for the last couple of years, and have really kind of got me in a really good place where I can do this full time. But Scott was friends with Buzzard's Roost attorney, and he was like, "They gave me a bottle of this whiskey and it's really good. And you should write a song called Buzzard's Roost, 'cause it feels like it's right in your wheelhouse." And I was, you know, I didn't have anything to do that day and I like an assignment. So this was like 3 years ago. I wrote a song called Buzzard's Roost. We sent it to them. They liked it. Nothing ever came of it. And then a few years later, they were kind of building their brand and they reached out and they were like, "Hey, do you still have that song? We'd love to talk about how we can use it and work together." And it's just been a very organic kind of, we're both new brands building and we're both kind of, it just kind of works together. They have this sort of organic Southern vibe thing going on. And that's kind of what we have going on. And it's worked. They're great people. And yeah, so we ended up wrapping the song up and letting them use it. And they've been using it for commercials and all sorts of social media stuff. And
very cool.
It's been great.
Yeah. Very good song. Very good song.
Thank you very much.
But, yeah. And then Drew, of course, has Tower Songs, and just we obviously have talked about that a few times on the show, but to keep everything within the structure of what we're doing today, Drew, tell everybody a little bit about what Tower Songs is, how it came about.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been writing songs pretty much my whole life, but kind of gave that up a few years ago. I had, you know, kind of a very rough personal patch with a divorce and some drugs and all kinds of stuff, and really kind of gave up on music. And a buddy of mine was just like, "Hey, you need to write this out. Like you need to figure this out through music, because that's the way that you process things." I was like, "Yeah, sure, buddy. I'll get right on that." And you know, just spent a few days in my apartment. The album artwork is actually photos of the Tower apartments that I was living in at the time. For those of you that are in Louisville or familiar with it, that's the 800 Tower. If you know the Louisville skyline, it's the big blue building. And it was a real kind of healing process for me through all that stuff. And just kind of write it out and just say, okay, here's where we are. Here's what we're doing. Was fortunate enough to have a friend that works with One Riot Publishing there in Nashville. She liked the songs, and we kind of worked out something where, you know, we could do a very small project with their help, and was fortunate enough to meet a dear friend who is now, you know, the producer and engineer for everything that I do, Lorenzo. who most of you guys have met, and just sort of through that process got these 5 songs that we felt like were good enough to be out there. So what you're listening to, I guess, if you listen to the project, is my therapy journal to myself. And we've got a lot more stuff coming. I love those songs dearly, but I don't think it's representative of what it's not necessarily representative of what's coming next. So yeah, I love that record. I'm grateful to have been a part of it and kind of get through that time, and now I'm just excited to make music that's maybe not quite so sad.
That will make my wife very happy.
Yes.
So in terms of the whole process, I mean, part of it, everything doesn't go your way every day when you're trying to do anything, let alone break into the music industry. How do you deal with that disappointment when somebody says that's not a good line to a song, or it's just not necessarily something specifically negative against you? It just, you had hoped that a song would be better received or something of that nature. How do you deal with the disappointment of that? Okay. How do you deal constructively with the disappointment of that? Drew, holding up your liquor glass.
Yeah, no. I think for me, and I'm a little bit different with this. The times that I get the most disappointment is when I'm co-writing, and things just I leave a couple hour session and we didn't get where we wanted to get, or I'm not pleased with the final outcome. But I think for me, it's just kind of recalling the fact that for some amount of dollars, I get to play music with my friends, and I get to get on stage and I get to sing things that matter to me. I get to play an instrument that matters to me. I get to be around people that matter to me. And if it sucks that day, okay, it sucks that day. But come Friday or Saturday night, I'm going to get together with friends and we're going to play music together. Mm-hmm. And that's about as good for me as anything else. So I think it's just more kind of keeping the big picture in perspective for me, that out of all the things I could do with my time, I get to play music with my friends. And if it didn't work today, okay, that's fine. It'll work next time. That's really about it for me. Just trying to keep that perspective.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you, Drew, on that. Like, just the big picture, and like just realize, like, trying to remind myself why I play music and everything. And just like, everyone has their own reason, but like mine is just because I love it. Like, it's like my like thing. I don't know. And like, it's like my form of therapy as well. When I'm like not feeling good, like I'll just go pick up a guitar and play Why Georgia, or like just try to write something, but just keeping the big picture in mind and knowing that like I'm doing this because it's something I like to do, not because like I necessarily care how many streams I have. Like that's important, and like you want to have the most streams you possibly can, but like you can't get caught up, especially like someone in like my position. You can't get caught up in the numbers. It's just not worth it. So just knowing that I'm doing it for myself, and
yeah, I think I like to think that anybody really worth listening to would be doing it even if people weren't listening. You know what I mean? And that's pretty much what you guys just said. I'm right there too. I would be doing this even if it was just me in a room by myself. I'd be writing the same songs. And I also think like if you do want to go all in and try and make whatever career out of it that you want, you have to have some sort of unwavering belief in what you're doing, and just because one person says a line isn't good, I bet I can go into their lines and pull out a bunch that aren't that good either, and you never get to the good lines without throwing out a shitload of bad lines. I firmly believe that one. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I think, just like any artistic endeavor, failure can be a a really great tool in growth, you know, if you're willing to look at it like that. And it sucks and it really hurts. But I think it can also be a real big motivating factor and a really great way to grow artistically.
Right. Absolutely. Well, guys, I have maybe one or two more questions before we wind down. I want to be respectful of your time. Did Kevin, Rose, or Ben, do either of you guys have anything else before I hop into these last couple? Make sure we get you.
Man, go for awesome. It. You kind of hit about everything I wanted to cover tonight. So
awesome.
Yep.
Well, can you send some more whiskey over?
I would be happy to. Well, realistically, we need to get you down to Louisville, and I think the five of us need to go find a show to see and have some drinks together. But
sounds great.
We talked about it a little bit earlier. I know both of you guys tend to be careful about drinking on stage. Is there any overlap or influence with whiskey in your music? You know, the famous phrase "write drunk and edit sober." But do you have a go-to whiskey when you're playing a show or when you're writing, or do you steer clear from it and keep a clear head? What's y'all's approach with that?
It's whatever Drew buys for me.
My goal is to get you drunk before every set. But you're a lot more disciplined than I am.
That's a good guy to keep around. I don't drink. I can't write when I'm drunk or when I'm drinking. I have a little bit of attention deficit to begin with. And once you start putting any sort of chemical involved or any sort of chemical in there, you know, it's not even worth my time. So I'll have, you know, a celebratory cocktail if I come up with something that I'm excited about. But other than that, I'm usually pretty sober when I'm doing it.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a good approach. I'm not sure there's many good songs that have been written while drunk. I had a moment a couple weekends ago where I forgot the words to a song that I wrote because I was drinking on stage. So definitely good to be careful. Well, I want to wrap up here pretty quick. I think we're getting near that time. I wanted to ask you guys each about one of your songs and maybe hear a little bit of the story and the writing process and what it means to you. So I just picked my favorites of each of what you do. So Ryan, I'll start with you. Here Lies Our Lovin'. What is the story behind that? How did you approach production, the writing, and what does that song mean for you now?
That song, I also, like when you were talking about your divorce and drugs and a low point, I actually had two of those, but very close together. So I kind of consider them one long, real low point. And that song came out of a divorce, a pretty brutal one. And, I remember sitting on my front porch in Milwaukee and writing it. And, I was pretty miserable, but I would get excited when a good line would come. And it was, you know, it was one of those where you play the same four lines over and over and over again and looking for the next one. And then another one come. It wasn't the easiest thing in the world. But I forget about that song a lot, actually, just because we tend to not play it so much in our sets just because it's pretty low key. And for like a bar situation, it can get swallowed up pretty easily. But
sure.
Yeah, man, that was straight up broken heart, drinking too much. And I lucked out, you know, with a good one coming out of it.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I so appreciate and respect the vulnerability and the honesty that comes from writing a song like that. That's what I connect with. I mean, that's, again, I think one of the reasons why we all love John Prine. It's just getting into it like that. And, and maybe that's why I gravitated so much towards that song, but really, really love that one, man. I'm grateful that you wrote it, and hopefully that has led to some better things now.
Man, things are good now. Days are bright.
Good.
Knock on wood.
I love to hear it. Love to hear it. All right, Kevin, I wanted to ask you, I love a lot of your songs. I'm an unapologetic fanboy, but one that I love every time you play is Little Miss October. So what was your inspiration there, and how did you go about writing that? What does it mean to you now?
That's like the one song that there wasn't much inspiration behind it. I mean, really, like, I'm sorry.
No, it's great.
Post.
It's great.
But like that was like right in the height of. I already said this, but Dave Barnes is an artist I'm like obsessed with, and it's like I don't know. That was the first song that I wrote that I was like I felt like really good about releasing. I think like just from a melody perspective, I think I did like what I want to do at least for now, and just like. It started the same way. I remember writing it. Just it can't like the melody, just that chorus part came in, and that was the first song that I like really like a full band song I put together. So like just the arrangement is something that I'll never forget. But I mean, the overall like message really was just like I just kind of there isn't really one. Like I just kind of wrote the lyrics and like it's called Little Miss October, and I just kind of cycle through the months as you go through each verse, but. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Like,
very good. Well, I'm a fan. So yeah, keep that one on the set list if I'm around.
It.
If I can make that humble request.
Definitely that's like my favorite song I think to play.
Yeah, that's it. It's a great one.
I'm gonna flip this. So my favorite one off Tower Records is For Now. So can you?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So. After my divorce, I was single for quite a bit of time, and then was with somebody for just a little bit, kind of a casual thing, that maybe was going to turn into something, I don't know, kind of all that jazz. And that song got written. It started getting written like 3 years ago, and realizing like we are in this relationship for now. This is temporary. We both know it's temporary. We're trying to make the best of it, make it work. And then I was working with another artist who she's on a major label and doing all kinds of stuff now, but we were just trying to kind of co-write something. It's like, well, I have this idea about being in a relationship and not being in love. What do you think about that? And so we kind of finished that one together, kind of about that. And so that was kind of the inspiration behind it. It came pretty quickly. I had a chorus and a verse before we went into the writing session, and then it kind of flowed from there. I don't play that one a ton out now, just because it's not super resonant with where I am currently in life. I mean, I'm doing a lot better in general currently, but yeah, I think it was a very honest song, and I think something a lot of us have connected to. You know, we all want some kind of connection. We want some kind of belonging. We want to, fit in with a person, and sometimes realizing that where you're at right now maybe isn't the best fit for that. But you're going to put up with it for now because it beats the hell out of being alone. So yeah, that was that one for me. And still very proud of that song. And it's always a fun time. You guys all know, maybe except for Ryan, my guitar player, Evan, the song really came together the last day we were in studio. And Evan was just like, I just want to try this one again. We were on like 27 or 28 takes on that one. And what ended up being on Tower Songs was, I think our 27th or 28th take. And that guitar solo just fit perfectly. And I was like, all right, there it is. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Can I ask a question to the John Mayer fans?
Sure.
Of course.
I'm a big Grateful Dead fan.
Okay.
How do you guys feel about the Dead with John Mayer?
I got introduced to them through John Mayer. Before he started doing that, I couldn't even tell you who was in the Grateful Dead, honestly. Which is
sure.
like, I mean, looking back, like I'm like that's sad, but like I'm glad I know, and like there's a few songs of theirs that I like to play, for sure. But I haven't been to one of their shows yet. That's on my bucket list to see him play with them.
Right on.
I see a lot of clips on like Instagram and stuff, and it just looks awesome.
I went to one at Alpine Valley, and it was pretty awesome. He was fantastic. I'm not like a John Mayer fan. I'm not a hater at all, but I'm just, I don't listen to a lot of his music. But he just the joy, and he looked like he was having a gas, and he played his ass off. He was so good. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it for what it's worth.
If you're gonna go see Dead and Company, you may want to do it, because I'd seen something where they may be bringing all that to an end pretty soon.
Oh, I saw Bob Weir say that was news to him.
Yeah.
Rolling Stone reported it, and he tweeted, "This is news to me," or something like that.
Oh, okay. Well, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Keep that thing rolling.
Yeah.
The world needs more Grateful Dead. Very cool. Guys, Kevin, is there anything else before we ask these guys to plug dates and stuff?
Yeah, that's where I was headed next, was to talk about what you've got coming up. I know, Ryan, you've got another EP coming out next month, right?
Yeah, May 6th. We've put out 3 singles, and so those will be on the EP, but then there'll be 3 brand new songs on there.
Awesome.
That we've been sitting on them for a while with COVID and everything. And I'm just thrilled that they'll be out in the world. So it'll be everywhere you get your music.
Awesome. And as far as live performances, how do people track that for you?
BuffaloGospel.com.
Okay.
Yep. We've got a bunch of stuff in the upper Midwest coming up, and hopefully more to come.
Okay. Great.
Awesome.
All right. And Kevin, I know that you just released Degrees of Separation a couple months ago, but you're already playing new music in your live performances. So do you have anything else that you're going to be putting out soon?
Yeah, I started just a few days ago, started to record my next album. It's going to be like a 12 to 14 song thing. Like almost everything's written. So I'm starting to kind of collect the arrangement thoughts and everything. And then I have probably a 4 to 6 song, like pop kind of synth based EP, like more just like contemporary stuff that I've been working on that I want to do as well. So I'm trying to manage my time to where I can like do it and not just waste time on one thing and just skip the other. But that's kind of my plan right now. Hopefully I can have the album out by like the end of the summer. It's kind of my goal, but since I'm just starting to record, but I'm just playing wise. I'll be around Louisville, the usual like spots. You can check it on Instagram and Facebook are the 2 places I really post. And then, yeah, I have some Lexington dates too. So starting to branch out a little bit.
Sweet.
Great. And Drew, how about you?
Yeah. I mean, you can find the current project out wherever you stream music. We are in process right now with a second project again. It's going to be a full-length recording. So meeting with my engineer and producer next weekend to kind of plan that all out. The goal right now is to have it out by May of 23. So again, a lot of it is written, but we still have a long way to go on all that. And then in terms of dates, it's a very, very full summer. We're going to be all over Kentucky, some in Tennessee, some in Ohio as well. So follow along on my Instagram. I don't do a lot on Facebook, and Twitter's for me being a sarcastic asshole. So follow Instagram if you want to know dates and things like that.
Okay. All right. So let's just, as we're closing this out, I want to make sure that everybody knows what your social medias contacts are, and we'll put this in show notes and stuff as well. But Ryan, tell everybody where they can find you on social media.
Pretty much everything is just at Buffalo Gospel or / Buffalo Gospel.
Okay.
We're on Instagram and Facebook, and again, I'm a sarcastic asshole on Twitter. Also, I've been trying to be more positive. That's my New Year's resolution: is only post good things on Twitter. And it's that website. Don't get me started on that. But yeah, those are the big 3. And then, like I said, Bandcamp is always great for merch, and our whole catalog's up there. So
awesome. Well, I want to make sure we find a time to see you live before too long.
Right on.
So, yeah. All right, Kevin, and you are on what social media outlets?
I'm on Twitter, but I don't really tweet at all, so don't worry about that. I like Instagram and Facebook are my 2 main things. Just Kevin Niehoff music, and like streaming services. Just my name, Kevin Niehoff.
And Nehoff spell that for him because you don't have it on.
Yeah, Niehoff. I looked for a way to edit it. I couldn't figure it out right now. But
all right, and Benjamin, tell everybody where they can find you on social.
Padawan_distiller on Instagram. Follow my distilling adventures at Kentucky Artisan.
That's a fun account to follow. Absolutely. And for Bourbon Turntable, you can watch the shows on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, Bourbon Turntable. You can also listen to the shows on your favorite podcast platforms, whether it be Apple or Spotify or Google. So please check that out. We are also on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, all under Bourbon Turntable. So it's very easy to find us. So follow along with all of our endeavors. All right. And our next show is going to be coming up. It will drop on April 27th. And Drew, tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah. We're going to be talking with our dear friend Shannon Hood, and we're going to be going back into our Texas whiskey series, part 2 of that. We're doing some blind sampling with her, and I'm sure we'll get into her first album and first concert, and all the overlap between music and whiskey with her as well.
Yeah. If you follow Shannon on social media, she posts a lot from live venues, both small and large. And I was talking with her today, and she said she's very excited about the samples she's sending our way. So we'll have some blind samples to do with her. And part of what she does is under her business called Poorly Educated, is she takes client groups through whiskey tastings. So she's going to do a little bit of that with us on our show and be able to show people, hey, this is what I do. So, all right. So until next time, on behalf of Benjamin and Drew, thank you very much, Kevin and Ryan, for being with us. Hope you guys had a good time.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
Really enjoyed talking with you, hearing about your process, and love your music. You guys are doing some great stuff. So just keep on keeping on. But until next time, cheers, love, and free bird.
Cheers. Thanks, fellas.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.